you're sharing your partner with another guy. Wouldn't you want to have some kind of relationship? I mean, that's why I think the relationships get so deep in this space outside of the play space, is because there's a real intimacy to sharing your partner with somebody.
What? I'm just awkward in the morning. I'm better in the afternoon. That's all it is. That's all it is. And then
what he's saying.
I've had like Layla's I've had a lot going on. Layla will find out when we do our one-on-one episode.
Oh, I'm excited.
You want to tell me?
Honestly, you don't want to get into it?
Not right now. Like it's just life shit. My sister is well, welcome to the show, Jacki.
Thank you.
But like, yeah, we're trying to record this show and there's a lot going on. But my sister's been struggling with like alcoholism for a while. And it's been kind of hitting a head where it's like, listen, you gotta Layla's always telling me that the biggest challenge when it comes to addiction, from what you told me, is that it's the family. That the family is not necessarily
acknowledge it?
She acknowledges it for sure.
So she knows there's a problem.
She knows there's a problem, but she's really committed to breaking it on her own. Or what happens is like her life goes well and then she'll stop asking for help, right? And then when the life falls apart, she goes back to the bottle. But what Layla was telling me, like, because you've worked so many years in substance abuse, is that the families are usually unwilling to let the person hit rock bottom. And so we are...
Because you love somebody.
Because we love them.
And you're literally loving them to death, though, right? So it's like when I have a mom that's calling little Johnny shooting heroin in her basement, but I'm never going to kick him out. I'm like, well, then you may as well put the needle in his fucking arm.
That's a really good way of saying it.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, that's why I love like Boston moms, New York moms. I can say shit like that, But yeah, it's true, and like, is your family willing to cut off your sister to help her?
So they keep putting it on me because they're like, you're going to be the hardest on her. It's like, right, I'm being hard on the problem. I'm not being hard on my sister. I'm being hard on the addiction, right?
Right.
But I can't be the only one that's calling her out.
No,
or calling her forward, right? We need backup. And I think I look at it like this. If you knew a drunk driver was driving drunk, you would probably call the cops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless it's your sibling or your spouse. And I think that's where it gets weird, because when they're that close to you, it does change your behavior.
You just have to take the keys away before they get behind the wheel.
And so then we start making excuses like, well, then let me take the keys away or let me do this other stuff. But the reality is, like, if they're driving drunk and their kids are in the car, you should call the cops, because they're putting
100%.
themselves at risk, the kids at risk. But am I willing to do that when it's my sibling? And so those are
well, you can tell him. He probably has no choice. You have to.
Yeah. Because like, they're either going to kill themselves or someone else or the kids in the back. Like, there's lives at stake here. And so in order for, they might be a little uncomfortable going to jail and getting a DUI, but I'm sure they're going to be way more uncomfortable when they're dead.
Yeah, well, definitely. And like, so I've been opening up about it. I've been opening up about it to friends, and they've been saying like, my cousin has this issue. My sister, I'm not alone in this. And so I even think for me, and
have you been to Al-Anon?
Great question.
No, what is that?
Tell them.
Well, it's support for people who have family members, close friends, spouses who have addiction issues. And so it's a support group for you to learn how to cope with someone who's dealing with addiction.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, now I know.
Yeah, because it's for you. It's not for the addict. It's for you. And so you would get your own sponsor, work your own 12 steps in order to learn how to create these boundaries, how to stick to them, and how to work on your own mental health towards this. Because this is a family disease. Like I said before, at least the addict gets to get high. You know what I mean?
Right,
so like, they may be struggling, but they get to get high. We don't.
Well, and I think that's what I'm struggling with is like the self-centered nature of addiction sometimes. Like, it is really about
it's a disease, but it's a very selfish disease.
It's very selfish. Like, they're damaging themselves. She's putting herself in the car. Then we all have to worry about it and stress about it.
And she has kids.
She has kids.
She's putting her kids at risk.
Putting kids at risk. Right. And then we all kind of show up to help.
Think and more about the kids, because they're defenseless and helpless, and they can't say, "Mommy, don't drive."
So it's hard. Like, yeah, that sounds great. And I love getting support. So I'll reach out to support real fast. So that's something I would go to. So thank you for mentioning that. And I will leave this in the show. I mean, this isn't even what we were talking about today, but It's in the
Use
space.
it anytime you need to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have my consent, Brian.
Well, we're glad you're here today, Jacki.
Layla has my consent too.
Thank you. But we'll talk more about that in our one-on-one because I did interventions for 10 years. So
Did you?
so I live for this shit. Like I live for it. So we'll talk more about that in our one-on-ones. But thank you so much, Jacki, for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Very excited. I have so many questions.
I feel like I'm watching a tennis match going back and forth.
I know.
It's very challengers up in here.
I know there's got to be a better way here, but we'll figure that out later.
Like a round table?
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
But I know you have more information about like what Jacki does. Like, and I know she works at AHF, which stands for
AIDS Health Foundation. Yeah, sorry.
AIDS Healthcare Foundation.
Thank you for correcting me. All right, AIDS Healthcare Foundation. And we'll tell people more about you, absolutely. But you're also like a long time, lifestyle person in the space, and you just have this wealth of knowledge. Anytime I come to you, you've seen it. People come and go. You've seen different scenarios play out, and so you're just this Rolodex or this encyclopedia of information.
You age me when you say Rolodex, but yes.
Okay, my bad.
Like a
All
nice
right.
fact.
I'm a world book encyclopedia. I just delivered to your home with all of the volumes.
You're a walking AI of information. Is that better?
I'll take it.
That should be in a book at some point.
It's going to be.
And so we wanted to pick your brain about a bunch of subjects today that come up and they're really hard things that no one has I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to some of these things. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that I'm not a healthcare professional. I work as the VP of Media Relations for AIDS Healthcare Foundation. So I am steeped in the information, but I do want to say that I'm not a doctor or a nurse.
Okay.
So take that with a grain of salt.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Right. Even if you were a doctor or a nurse, whatever you said wouldn't apply to everyone.
Correct.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is PEP and PrEP.
Okay. We're going to dig right in.
Yeah. Because of time, and I think this is important. So just for some background knowledge, I don't know much about PrEP or PEP, and I found out about both by going to AHF. Yeah. Which is short for your
so AIDS Healthcare Foundation, we go by AHF, which is a great way to refer to it.
Okay. And now you have offices in different states, right? But
we do. We're in 17 states, DC and Puerto Rico, and we're in 47 countries around the globe.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Holy
That's
shit.
crazy.
We have more than 2.1, I think at this point, million clients in care around the world.
Holy shit.
Wait, so what? Okay, this might be a stupid question because I've never visited because I don't think you guys have a location in Orange County, do you?
I don't think we're in Orange County. We're in Los Angeles County.
Yeah.
We've got Wellness on Western. We've got West Adams, and then Long Beach are the 3 locations in LA County.
So
I don't think we're an OC.
What services do you guys provide?
So we do STI testing and treatment.
Mm-hmm.
We do HIV and AIDS health care. In addition to that, we also have Food for Health, which is a food bank, and we do fresh fruit and produce a couple times a week, depending on the location. We also have affordable housing. We've now purchased, I think it's 15 buildings in Los Angeles alone. And we have taken these old buildings and renovated them. And now we're at about, I think it's more than 1,400 people we've gotten off the streets into truly affordable low-income housing. So the people pay between $400 and $850 a month for single room occupancy in most cases. Some have private bathrooms, some have communal shared bathrooms. But these are historically old properties. So the Barclay Hotel, the King Edward Hotel, the Baltimore Hotel, and we did the Sinclair, and we take them, we renovate them. It's faster and a fraction of the cost of new construction. It helps get people off the streets.
Holy shit.
That's amazing. See, I didn't know any of that stuff. I knew about out of the closet.
We also run out of the closet, which are the thrift stores that are around all around the country.
But you guys do so much.
Yeah, 96.7 cents. 96.7. That was great. Let's start that over.
Cut, edit.
So we also run the out of the closet thrift stores. 96 cents of every dollar goes back into patient care. So when you thrift it out of the closet, your money's actually going back into.
Is that one of the highest for a nonprofit? One of the highest, like dollar for dollar?
I don't know, actually.
It's got to
be crazy high.
We're pretty high up there. I mean, we're very much focused on patient care.
Yeah. Holy cow, I had no idea.
So they do all of this, right? But when our friends think about it, we just think about STI testing.
Right, because we do free STI testing.
Free STI testing. And so we think we have this limited view of what you do, but it is an awesome service because we can go in for free STI testing. Anyone can. So I went in, but one of the things that was different about how
was your experience? Let me ask you that. How was your experience?
Be honest.
I'm gonna be honest, Layla.
Be honest.
All right. So look, all right, you got to get there early.
Wait times are an issue.
Wait times are a thing.
But that shows you something because we're popular.
Yep.
There's a demand, right? There's actually a demand for it, but I still think the system of how you like take a number, it is efficient in how you handle it. There's free condoms all over the place you can just go in and walk out with a stack of Magnums if you want.
We
right?
actually have our own brand of condoms.
It's your own brand.
Love condoms are the red ones. Those are for your average size.
Yes.
You say rough?
Love.
Oh, I thought you said like rough
red-
You're like, these are
Yes,
the
we have
sandpaper
the sandpaper
condoms.
condom.
I should have had you bring some.
The love condom. And then the icon is the gold condom. And that's for your larger size. So that would be like a Magnum.
Brian's like, I'll take the gold.
I didn't say anything.
I know what
you
you're
said
thinking.
that.
I know what you're
Yes, I
thinking.
grabbed the gold pack.
You would grab
But there's
the gold.
also like lollipops and so it's really nice.
Ooh, sweet treats.
Okay. But then what happens is, so usually, because I'm a Kaiser patient, right? So
Right.
when I go to Kaiser and I go in and I get an STI test, it's like they handle it and then they're like, do you want a flu shot? There's nothing else that they pitch, right? Doing a flu shot, COVID shot,
Right.
get out of here, right? But your people brought me back for like a consultation before I got my STI test.
Yep.
And he asked me about my sexual history, how active I was. And then he started talking to me about the benefits of PrEP and whether I should be on PrEP or not based on my level of activity. And then he told me about PEP, and I didn't even know about PEP. That PEP. So for people who don't know what those are,
I don't know.
What can you explain PrEP and PEP?
Sure. So PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP. And basically the idea is if you are at risk of contracting HIV, if you are sexually active, if you are not using a condom, if you are having multiple partners, if you engage in intravenous drug use, you would want to consider being on PrEP. And essentially what it is you can take a pill every day and that will protect you against potentially contracting HIV. There's also the option of getting a shot every 2 months. That's Apretude. That's a little trickier for some people to make sure they get to the doctor and get that shot every 2 months. But if you can think of taking a pill every day, women have been doing it for decades with birth control. But the idea is you take a pill every day and that will protect you from getting HIV.
Right.
You do have to go back to your doctor and get a blood test every 3 months, make sure that your kidney levels are good and your blood work's good. But if you're a candidate for it, then we can give it to you.
Okay.
You get a prescription for PrEP.
And then PEP is if I think I've been exposed
So that's like your Plan B emergency birth control.
Oh, so is it a one-time?
for exposure.
Right. So if you think you've been exposed to HIV, you can get PEP. You have to take it within 72 hours of when you thought you were exposed.
Oh, so if you are with someone and then
You find out that they're HIV positive or you have a concern that you might have been exposed to someone.
you have 72 hours.
72 hours to get PEP.
And then are these free at AHF?
Yeah, you can get them. There's a way to get them for free through AHF.
Wow.
We can support you on that.
And so this is why, so even on my Kaiser questionnaire, when I'm filling out my STI thing, it'll say, hey, do you think you've been exposed in the last 48 hours? And I think they're asking because of PEP.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Okay.
But what AHF does, which I think is very important, we can talk about this today. I don't know if I've spoken about this with you all before. We do what we call extragenital testing, which means we test oral, anal, and genital.
Right.
And when you go to your doctor or you go to another healthcare provider, generally they'll have you pee in a cup, they'll take some blood, and that's the end of it.
Right.
Right? They're not testing for oral and they're not testing for anal.
Right.
You're laughing. I don't know why.
I'm so glad we're getting on this. Yeah.
Well, I asked my
Because it's been a
I asked my OBGYN to do that, to do the throat test and the anal test. And he looked at me like I had three heads.
Right. They don't think about it. And what the problem is STIs are on the rise. And part of the reason they're on the rise is because nobody's testing for oral.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get oral gonorrhea and you can get oral chlamydia. And it will spread to your genitals in terms of if I have oral sex with somebody and we're not using a condom, because let's face it, nobody's using a condom for oral sex these days.
Right.
no.
I can then give you gonorrhea or chlamydia if I have it in my throat and I give it to you that way.
Okay. Let's talk about this because this has been a debate. We're on a couple WhatsApp groups or Discord channels.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like every 2 or 3 months this pops up. Like, should we be doing the swabs? Do we need to be doing the swabs? Is there actually an outbreak?
1,000%.
Now, is there?
And because I usually chime in on these WhatsApp groups.
You do,
and say,
you
"Y'all
do,
are being
and so
idiots, go get tested."
Yep.
And you're one, but none of the doctors on the group ever chime in.
Why?
Okay,
Great question.
Great question. Whew, she came, man. Jacki came ready to fight today.
right.
You're ready to go.
You get me up early.
Look, this is.
You let me sleep in. I'm a little more like
These morning episodes.
nah,
I think okay. So you're gonna talk about your OBGYN, right?
Yeah.
So they like the breadth or the range of patients that they're dealing with are dealing with so many different things,
right.
and like their job is to deliver healthcare at like whatever the standard is. And so if Kaiser, for example, came out and was like, our new standard is going to be to do oral swabs and anal swabs, and they would do that.
Right.
I think that their base, like your OBGYN, like their main client base might be people who haven't had sex in like a year.
I was going to say,
right? Or they're struggling to get pregnant, or they've only been with one person. And so
there's no need.
There's no need for them to like have that specific expertise. Whereas and I don't want to sound like an asshole when I say this, but like because of the group that you work with, like it is more, how do I say this? Landmine. You started working with a group that was particularly at higher risk.
Yeah, we're more at risk of contracting STIs. When you're more sexually active, you're more at risk of contracting STIs.
Yeah.
So
right. And so your group is more active than
absolutely
the general group that your OBGYN sees.
Correct. Although I will argue, and I've done this in the past, is that if I go out and I'm dating kind of in the real world, I think I'm more actually likely to catch something if I'm having sex with people I don't really know than I am in the lifestyle space because we're testing so often.
Okay.
And people don't want to be out of the game because what fun is that to have an STI and have to get tested and then have to take 10 days, 2 weeks off?
For sure.
I've been on dates before where I've asked the gentleman, hey, when was the last time you've been tested? And they're like, oh, I've never been tested, but I know I'm clean.
No.
And I'm like, you fucking asshole.
Do you get up and walk away?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
First of all, they called it clean. So I'm like, you're not
done.
my people here. And then second of all, like, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, that's so
It's
dumb.
ignorant. It is ignorant.
Like,
or it's like, hey, if I,
how good at sex are they going to be if they don't know that?
there we go.
or it's like if somebody had it, they would tell me. Like, don't bank on that.
Right.
Watch this, Layla. When's the last time you were tested?
2 days ago.
Okay. Yep.
2 fucking
Mine
days
was
ago.
beginning of the month.
Beginning of the month.
Yeah.
Right.
I got tested last week.
Yeah.
See, we're all getting tested all the time. We have to take care of ourselves and each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our community.
And
We
there's no
really do.
shame to it. There's no stigma to it.
No.
But that's one of the big issues too with getting people tested and treated for HIV. So when you go into AHF and you do that consultation, that's to figure out whether or not you're a candidate for PrEP because we want people to get on PrEP. And the reason why we want people to get on PrEP is, right, the less we spread HIV, the closer we are to eradicating it. And the idea is we can identify people who are sexually active if they're coming in for STIs, one of them obviously being HIV. You want to be able to test people. So they bring you back, they talk to you about your sexual habits, they do a rapid HIV test. Then you go back to the waiting room.
That's right. You do that. And then you go back to the waiting room.
And then you hang out in the waiting room until they call you to the back to do the rest of your tests.
Okay. Are there any side effects to PrEP?
There are side effects to PrEP. From what I understand, they're very minor. There's not a big concern, but they do have to test. There are earlier versions. There's a new version of PrEP that tends to be safer, and there were actually lawsuits about this. I think it's Truvada versus Descovy, if I'm not mistaken, and Descovy is the safer one. But they were talking about it having an impact on bone density. And a lot of the people who were taking I want to say it was Truvada, I'll have to double check on this, but who were taking the earlier version we think they're having issues with side effects and bone density, and that the now current version is better for you. But there's a whole lawsuit around that.
And part of the lawsuit is because the pharmaceutical company had the newer version
And
of it,
withheld it
and
to
they
make more
withheld
money.
it because they wanted the patent on the original. They wanted to make as much money as they could off the original one, even though they knew it was causing way more bone density loss than the newer version was. We'll put that in the show notes. The New York Times covered it, and they did a great job with it. Okay, so now the debate or the question in the group was, and even when I did my consultation, I didn't know the answer for the guy. Like, do you think lifestyle people should be on PrEP?
Well, that's a good question. You know what? I don't know. Like, I don't feel like I'm at risk for HIV the way other people might be or other populations might be. but I'm also not in my heyday of sexual activity.
Okay.
I'm much less active right now
Well, I
than
mean, if
I've been in the past. So I would think that maybe if people are using condoms a lot less now than they used to be, and we're a lot more gender fluid right now than we used to be,
Mm.
I think that maybe there's a conversation to be had about considering being on PrEP. I would imagine all of our friends who work in the adult industry are on PrEP. And we end up having people that we interact with in our day-to-day life who are sex workers. So it would then reason by the transitive property that perhaps we should consider being on PrEP. But I think it depends on how much sex you're having. If you're having unprotected sex, how often your partners are testing, those considerations would come into play.
I mean, if there's no real bad side effects, why wouldn't somebody just add that to their vitamins? You know what I mean? Like if I don't like, why wouldn't you? I guess.
A lot of people
thought-
don't feel they want to put extra medication into their body. That's
I have so many
part of
meds in my body.
Would you feel comfortable
Figure-
taking PrEP every day?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. You know, I don't see why not. I mean, all of my, partners and people I play with at parties, we always use protection. So I don't think I would get anything. But then again, it only takes one time.
But did you know that the use of condoms is on the decline?
No.
Yeah.
Wait, why?
What
Yeah.
numbers are what number?
Well, I don't know if I have the
give us
exact
the
statistics.
exact
Yeah, I want the
number.
exact.
Right.
4.
Just two.
No, but there's been a lot of articles written recently about this sort of new generation not using condoms as often or understanding the need for condoms. And I think that's a couple. One is that it's not even in the national plan for HIV eradication. They don't even talk about condoms, which is insane to me. But on top of that, there's this whole generation that hasn't grown up with the threat of HIV the way that
Interesting.
we grew up with it.
Mhm.
That
And it's not deadly anymore, right? When I grew up at least, when the talk of HIV and AIDS, it killed you.
Right.
And so there was a real scare. But now you can take PrEP. There is PEP. It's not a death sentence. You can take medication if you are HIV positive or living with HIV, I should say. That's a better way to say it. If you're living with HIV, there's medication that you can take that can get your viral load down to undetectable. And if you're undetectable, you're untransmittable.
And so
Oh.
people know this. Like I've heard this from the mouth of a doctor before. It was like, hey, if you have HIV, it's just like having diabetes, right? Like there's so many
You can
treatments for
manage
it. You
it.
can manage it like that. It's not like you want it.
No, but you can live a
But-
full, healthy, normal, thriving life if you're living with HIV.
But you're right. Like we grew up in the 90s, like Magic Johnson got it.
Right.
Couldn't play basketball anymore. He once said that one of the worst things he did for HIV prevention was survive
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wow.
because it made people take it less seriously.
Wow.
And so I get that. And I wonder if like porn, like kids are getting exposed to porn at a much younger age now.
Mm.
And people don't use condoms in porn.
Oh, yeah.
I don't use condoms in porn.
Yeah.
So they don't see condom use modeled.
Right. I mean, okay.
So are STIs on the rise though? And like,
Yes, STIs absolutely are on the rise. Yes.
all of them, or is there a particular one that's like going rampant?
I mean, they're all pretty up there. Gonorrhea. The issue with gonorrhea too is there are some strains now of gonorrhea that are antibiotic resistant.
I've heard about
So we're
this.
creating like super strains.
That sounds
of
terrifying.
STIs. Yeah.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
because we were just talking on another episode. We're like, it's no big deal. It's just a shot in the bud. Who cares?
If you get
And
one of the
now
good
Jacki's
ones.
like, well.
There are variations now that we have seen a strain of gonorrhea that's STI resistant, that's antibiotic resistant rather. And I mean, they're all up. Chlamydia's up, syphilis is up. Syphilis is actually especially risky if you're pregnant.
Oh,
So now part of the narrative is like it's going around the space. And so I called a friend at the CDC. I did because I was like, hey, listen, there's this narrative. I want to check if this is true. And what they told me was that if there was an outbreak, you would see exponential growth. And then they asked me this question like, hey, you're on like WhatsApp and Discord groups where people are talking about it more openly than the normal population would. And so it might make you feel like something is going around faster than it is or more aggressively than it is. And she said something like, if there was an outbreak, we would know because we get the data from all the centers. But they tend to look at city stuff. They're not looking at like your specific one WhatsApp.
They're not
group.
looking at our friend group.
They're not looking at our friend group, but our friend group does like, we've all been tested in the last month, right? It's like multiply that by 200 people, that is what, 2 times, whatever, a lot of tests, right? So
Yes,
is part of this
the numbers
because
are
the
growing
numbers?
up. I know epidemic is probably a very specific scientific word, right?
Okay.
If you call someone at the CDC, they have a very specific word for epidemic, right? COVID was an epidemic.
Right. They're looking at like, did it go from 3 to 7 to 15
Yes.
to,
But it is growing. Yes, the numbers are there. That
Okay.
STIs are on the rise nationwide.
So which STIs and STDs don't have any symptoms?
Well, all of them can be asymptomatic.
Really?
yeah, depending on the person,
Depending
right?
on the person, they can all be asymptomatic, which is why you have to test.
Right.
But there are, I mean, obviously there are obvious symptoms if you have burning and sores or any of your usual STI symptoms.
Do you want to
go
hear
get
something
checked.
crazy?
Yes.
Brian has been in this scene for a decade. He's telling me he's never had an STI.
Really? You've never had one?
I believe him because I don't think he'd lie, but also what? Isn't that crazy? I mean,
had some
You
good
know
luck.
what's amazing is I am overwhelmingly paranoid about STI, so I get tested like crazy.
Uh-huh.
And after every play party, there's like 3 or 4 days where I assume I have everything.
I can see
And
it. Do you Google? Are you like a doctor?
Oh
Google?
yeah. And I'm like, what are the exact symptoms of, right? And it's like, hey, you could have chlamydia. Also, you might not be drinking enough water,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
So
or cancer.
right. So I just like drink enough.
You're dying
Your
or
dick's falling
dehydrated. It's really one
And
of the two.
I don't want to make light of it, but I think I do try to operate pretty safely. I try my best. Now, okay, so STIs are on the rise. So based on something you said a couple minutes ago, though, is it more on the rise with younger generations, or is it also like when you look
Have
at
you not seen the
35
billboards
plus?
that STDs are timeless?
I've seen. Are those your billboards that
Those
are
are
like,
our
this is
billboards.
what chlamydia in the eyes looks like?
Those are terrifying.
Those are
Are you
yours?
serious? Yeah, those are us.
Terrifying.
Yeah, every time you see these,
People-
we're the only organization that's doing
Those are
these.
the only billboards I look at, by the way.
Well, that's great. That means
Yes.
we're doing a good job.
Y'all are killing it. I'm just like, what is that? What is
But it was like, why people, I don't know if you've seen those billboards. We'll try to find a picture of it. But it's like, this is what gonorrhea in your eye looks like.
It's eye syphilis is serious.
Eye syphilis. There you go. Eye syphilis. That looks wild.
Yeah, there's gonorrhea alert. Eye syphilis is
Are
serious.
you causing car
STDs.
accidents?
I don't know. We're all over Reddit though. Social media's been picking it up.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
You also, Coachella got mad at you guys too.
Oh, Coachella. That was a fun one.
Wait, Coachella got mad at y'all?
Yeah, we had a billboard that we posted outside of Coachella that said "Catch more than vibes?" Question marks.
We did
We
not.
did one outside Burning Man too that said "Burning sensation?" Question marks.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but the Coachella people got upset with us and they threatened to sue. And so we put out a press release and said, go for it. Like there was no intellectual property that we were copying. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't cross any lines. They threatened us and made a bigger deal of it than they needed to. And that's what got us all the media attention. The billboard itself was clever, but the press outreaches really blew it up.
Yeah, because you didn't even use their name. It just was like
It
people
just
look.
catch more. The background of the billboard had that desert landscape that they use on their marketing materials. Not exactly the same, but very similar. And I think people then knew that we were referring to the festival in the desert.
Right.
But we never said anything about Coachella. There was nothing that implied. It was insinuated that it was.
All press is good press.
But
yeah?
it's important. It's an important thing to get out there,
100%.
right?
Absolutely.
Like, do you think festivals should give away free condoms?
Yeah, of course. Why not? Like everyone's rolling, everyone's like, making out, everyone's like, yeah. I mean, people are fucking in the porta potty. I mean, yeah, it's like a sexual, fun, wild experience.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And they do. I think they do have booths, right? For like,
I have no idea.
Or maybe I'm
We
just
should look
thinking-
into that actually.
really
If we're not
honestly-
providing, I want
That's
to
what they
do it.
should have done. They should have offered you a booth to just give out condoms.
well, they have like an overdose awareness booth.
do.
They have like those
Like
types.
harm reduction.
Yeah, like that. You guys should absolutely do
I
that.
actually want to do it for the Olympics because the Olympics, this past Olympics, they talked about handing out condoms in the Olympic Village, and we have the gold icon condoms. So I want us to be the official. I probably shouldn't say this out loud until I get it secured, but I'm going to reach out to them because I'd like
You
us
guys
to
heard
be
it here
the
first
official-
on the
would
Master
love it.
Swingers.
I'd like us to be the official condom
Gold.
sponsor of the LA Olympics in 2028.
I love that idea.
I'd like
Oh,
that.
wow.
I love that idea.
Okay.
And I have a slogan too, but
What's your slogan?
We can cut it.
go for the gold.
Do it.
Yeah, get a bigger dick. Okay. So, all right. So I want to.
Oh,
This
that
is
does have two meanings actually.
Uh-huh.
You reach for the gold and then also target the gold.
Go for the gold.
It does. All right. So I do want to, this has been great. I want to switch it up a bit because I want to go to the AI in you that has all this information.
Okay.
And
if it's AI, can I play with all sorts of things? Like
you
Get real creative.
So you came in, I didn't know this. You first came in as a couple.
Yes.
And then, you were paired in a couple, and now you're a single woman in this space. What's the biggest difference for you in those two experiences of being in a couple in the space, being single in the space?
Freedom. I don't have to ask permission. I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want. It's incredibly liberating.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big change for me. I started in the lifestyle as part of a couple. We were in it together for about 3 years. And when we broke up, I stayed, he left. And I took a couple of months off, and then I went to my first party and I was nervous. I was really scared of what it was going to be like to be alone. And I walked in and it was this breath of fresh air, and I was surrounded by friends. And I felt like there were people who had been off limits while I was in this relationship who I now had the liberty to be able to interact with, because it wasn't just my choice. When I was part of a couple, I obviously had to consider my partner's desires. And if there were people that he wasn't comfortable with my interacting with, I had to stay away from those people. So now I was free to interact with who I wanted to. And the nice thing is that some of my incredible relationships that I've built over the last 4 years have been people that were off limits to me at that time.
Oh, wow.
Why were they off limits?
People that injected a level of insecurity into our relationship, people that maybe he didn't feel 100% comfortable with, people that you get a vibe, I think, or there's maybe the way I was comfortable with somebody made him uncomfortable. If I showed a particular interest in somebody, I always say about the lifestyle, and we can talk about this in a greater, in a wider scope, but I always say that the lifestyle doesn't cause problems; it only magnifies the ones that you already have.
That's 100. We're gonna clip the fuck out of that. That's so true.
Yeah. And so we had problems outside of the lifestyle that bled over into the lifestyle. The lifestyle didn't cause us problems. There were symptoms of larger problems that materialized within the lifestyle space.
Can we go further into that? Would that be okay to is there anything in particular that you can think of?
We just had normal relationship problems that were the normal life things. The dynamics of our relationship weren't working. We were having problems, just normal money, job, exes, things like that.
Right.
And that insecurity that was created because of those things that were happening outside of the lifestyle would come into the lifestyle space, but manifest in a way that didn't sound like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it manifest in the ways of being frustrated with me after a party. The rules would get tighter and tighter. The goalposts would move.
Wow.
And so what was bringing me joy started to cause a tremendous amount of anxiety, because I would have a really good experience and say, look, I followed all the rules and we had a great night and everything was great. And then I'd get a lecture on how I actually did break a rule, or he was upset by something, or it didn't go the way I thought it did. And it did. There was a little bit of gaslighting after the fact on that. But that is how it manifested itself. When you go to a party, I can ask both of you this, when you go to a party with your partner, do you feel like you keep track of rules? Are there limitations? Have you evolved that over time?
This is it has evolved over time. Layla and I just took breaks from parties for a bit because, and part of it was that the parties happen so frequently in LA. The parties happen so frequently for us that you can just jump from party to party to party and not actually solve or revisit the boundaries and things like that. And so I'll speak from my relationship. We definitely did have to pause and revisit some of the things because we were breaking things that we said we wouldn't break.
Both of you were.
Both of us were. And we had to just pause for a second and look back at that. So,
and how did that resolve?
Oh, it's been great. So we started going to parties again recently, and it's been awesome. But it's us holding that boundary.
I was going to say, are you sticking to new rules now?
We have been. I try not to call them rules.
Boundaries.
I'm calling them boundaries or agreements.
Oh, I like that.
We had someone else on the show who said it's really an agreement, less a rule.
Oh, I like that.
And boundaries are personal.
Maybe the problem was I called them rules.
Right. Well, yeah. Brian, tell her the difference between boundaries and agreements.
Well, what we learned this from Allie. was like my boundaries are personal boundaries that I have, and agreements are agreements I have with a partner.
With someone else.
And now my boundaries are meant to be challenged and be pushed, but my agreements aren't meant to be unilaterally changed in the moment.
Interesting.
And I think what was happening for us is that we had those things were kind of like, you know, confused. They're conflated, I guess is the word. And we needed to kind of detach them and say, here's the agreement we have here, and here's the boundary.
See, I think the problem that we ran into is that we had kind of a lowest common denominator thing going in our relationship where whoever was the least comfortable made the rules. And it was rules. And it wasn't rules in like a sexy, dumb way. It was rules in like a constraint kind of way. But it was like, I'm not comfortable, so we need to stop doing this because it's about whoever's least comfortable. We didn't have, and frankly, I think because I started so early in this and didn't have the community that I have now, there weren't enough people to talk to about what the alternatives were.
Right.
We weren't having conversations about boundaries versus agreements versus limitations versus rules. So all I knew was I'm trying to make my partner happy. My partner's uncomfortable with what we're doing, so I have to defer to him.
Right.
That's the lowest common denominator.
And instead of working through that uncomfortability, it's like, where are we uncomfortable? Is it the jealousy? And where's the jealousy coming from? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it right? So there's so many ways to take it apart and really look at the uncomfortability. And people that aren't willing to grow and to work through that, we're used to when if you feel danger, you stop. Right. And so in this space, you really get to walk through the uncomfortability and learn from it.
It's advanced relationshiping.
Right. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's like, we're not doing this. Like we're done with, like, this is a new rule.
But you have a different dynamic because you're poly.
Right. I'm also polyamorous.
So how does that affect the boundaries and agreements that you make?
So it's interesting because, like, although my poly life and my like swinger life, we'll call it, they're so different. They may be under the same umbrella, but they're entirely different.
So
lives.
You don't go to parties
to find dates. No. Anytime I've ever gone out with somebody that I met at a party, it's been a fucking nightmare.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, how interesting.
Because they've already seen me naked. Maybe we've played before. So they assume on the first date, they can be all over me.
So you're not building a relationship at that point. You're just perpetuating a sexual encounter.
Yep. And that's not what I'm looking for. When I go on dates with people, I don't even kiss them on the first date.
Oh, interesting.
Like I am.
So you are very much separating.
Very separate.
Is that even if you played with them before, you won't kiss them on the?
I might kiss them. Maybe if I played with them before because we've already kissed, and maybe I'm like, oh, they were a good kisser. Like, sure, but like we're not fucking. We're not doing anything else. Like the last.
Have you ever been tempted though when you meet somebody at a party and you're wildly attracted to them and think maybe this is somebody I'd like to see again?
No, I don't think I am because I automatically assume that that's all that they want from me. So I
Even
almost
if they really like you.
Yeah.
You're very likable.
Thank you. But I have these assumptions, like, especially men, like women, I think are different. Like
Sure.
I've hooked up with women at parties and I've gone on dates with them. But again, like they're not all over me at the dinner table.
Right.
Like the last date I went on with someone that was in our community. I mean, he's on an off skirt. You wouldn't know him, but I don't know if I've told this story before. Oh my God. So within the first 10 minutes of our date, we're at this like beautiful little restaurant, like 5:00 on a Tuesday in Laguna. And he goes, first of all, he sits next to me in a booth, which I don't like. And second of all, he goes, look at this. And he points down to his pants. Oh, it's worse than you think. I look down being like, he's going to show me his fucking boner. And I look down and it was wet.
His pants were wet?
Oh, and God. I went, did you just come in your pants? And he goes, yeah, I do that sometimes.
Date over.
Yeah, done.
Dude, leave.
That's when you go to the bathroom and don't come back.
Well, like,
I mean, I'm not a fan of ghosting, but
well, the thing is like, I think when I'm in situations like that, because I have a plethora of horrible date stories I can tell you another time, but like I will get in this kind of fight or flight where I'll just, or freeze. So I'll freeze and I won't even recognize how fucked up things are until like hours later.
Did you finish out the date?
I did, dude. And we went to the beach after. And I'm like, I knew I was uncomfortable. We had been texting for a couple weeks and I enjoyed our conversations. And I even warned him before the date, like, don't touch me. Like, I don't want to be like, I don't want this. And we're sitting on the beach and he lifts up I was wearing a skirt like to my knees. He lifts up my skirt and goes, are you wearing underwear? I wasn't. And then we go to this is so fucking embarrassing. And then we go to my car and I'm sitting in the driver's seat. He gets in the passenger seat and he's like, let's get in the back. And I'm like,
you're like, you can't drive from the back. I can't get you home faster from the back.
No, I don't want to. He asked me like 4 times. And I said, I don't know how else to tell you no. And then I got an important phone call and I was like, get out.
And he's in the lifestyle space?
He's in the lifestyle space.
Usually I encounter that with men who aren't in the life, like not that in particular.
He's on the outskirts though. He's not.
He's on an outskirts. So there's another like Discord group that I won't mention. It's a good group though, but it's whatever. And so I met him through that Discord group.
Okay.
And then I told the founders of that Discord group, they have a big party circle. And so I talked to the founders there about this gentleman. And they went, this is not the first. This is not the second time we've heard about this from him.
Did they kick him out?
They did.
Okay.
Good.
They did.
That's good.
And what's funny is the gentleman because I texted him later that night and I was like, this isn't working out. And he was like, oh, can you please not tell so-and-so?
Oh no,
Please don't
because
tell
he
me.
knew he was on thin ice and he was so
Yeah.
fuck that guy. I want to know who he is too. I'm gonna
I'll
kick
tell
him
you.
off my app.
I'll tell you later.
But well, because like asshole, bro. And he missed every single sign that you weren't comfortable.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, is this a good time to talk about single men in the space?
Yes. Hold on, let me get comfortable.
Well,
This is my favorite topic.
I want to talk about single men, but I also want to talk about single women.
Okay,
Because
let's do that.
I do think we beat up single men a lot.
Okay.
And there's some great single men out there. Layla's nodding her head. I know they are. We were all single at one point, Jackie. Like all of us married guys.
Yeah,
She is
you were
not
probably a douchebag.
budging. Her face is not.
No, I'm happy to talk about single women because I think that there's some advice I can impart for sure.
Please.
Let's do single women, and then we'll pop back to single men. What's your
I mean,
advice
if you
for?
think there's good single men out there, send them my way.
Yeah,
'cause
please.
I'm having
Hello.
trouble finding
Yeah.
them.
There has to be great single people are getting married. Like there's. Okay, so part of it is like there's this belief that there aren't great single guys out there. And
I mean, at some point they were, or they've been trained by women.
Right. Who was a comedian that came out? She was like, I want a man that's been
Ali Wong.
pre-yelled
Ali
at.
Wong. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw. My wife was watching that the other day. I was getting annoyed.
Great
but
special. She
even
does a good
she
job.
was like bashing men a lot. So
Yeah, I don't man bash. I love men. Don't get me wrong. I love men. I just really would like to find a good one. That's all.
We don't ask for much.
how do you define a good man?
Oh, the bare minimum is so hot.
What is the bare minimum? Like just tell
Don't
me,
lift up my
educate
skirt
me.
and cream in your fucking pants.
That's a start. That would be
I
a
don't
good
ask for much. You know,
Are most men doing that?
most men are doing something fucked up. The date before that tried to throw me in the trunk of his car.
Oh, you need help. Can I
Yeah,
help you?
we're gonna
Please.
talk about how she's picking.
Please.
I mean, this is like stranger danger territory.
I just don't have any. I don't have any guy friends that would throw someone in the trunk of their car. So I'm just like, I don't know who these guys are.
You know who that guy is?
Oh,
You do too.
interesting. I do.
Mhm.
Oh,
Now
God.
when we're off camera, I need to know who this is.
This is going off. This is going off.
Oh no, we're so off script. Sorry.
No,
Okay,
but now I want to know.
Look, because we did an episode a week or two ago, and I already went in on single guys. Like I said a lot of stuff to them about their behavior. I think there's a lot about
Entitlement.
there's entitlement,
dick dangling, and
entitlement. Go be nice to people. Like just be fucking nice. Like guys, just be nice. You will go so much further if you're nice. It doesn't matter how tall you are, how big or small your dick is. Like just be nice and kind to people.
I'll tell you why, and this brings up a really good point. Like I'm off all the apps at this point, and the reason why is I realized that I'm really drawn to energy.
Mm.
I'm very much drawn to chemistry, smell, like aura, any of that stuff. And there are men that I might not find physically attractive in pictures, but when you get them in person, you want to tear their clothes off.
Yep.
And so I realized that it's not doing me any favors because I'm going on aesthetics, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything because there's some guys that I'm wildly attracted to that if I saw their picture, I'd be like, nah.
Yep.
But then you get them in person and it's like immediately.
Their confidence
Yeah,
or the
there's
way
a-
that they walk or
and
talk.
And what does it for me in a play space is, we do a lot of socializing outside of the play space. What does it for me meeting a couple in that space or a man in that space is someone who engages me in conversation where I'm turned on, my mind's turned on, I'm laughing, I feel like he's genuinely interested in knowing who I am as a person. And then the sex comes. And then the sex is even that much better because I'm free to feel like I'm desired and wanted. And that lets me let loose in all of the ways that make me me. So for me, I'm hoping to find someone in the wild because the app thing just to me eliminates a whole bunch
Touching of the vibe.
Yeah, and it's a whole bunch of men that I'm sure that I would like in person. And granted, they have to be within a certain parameter of attractiveness. There's a level. I'm not looking for
Of course.
two, but I would very much. I think that I realized after going on a series of dates with men who were physically attractive and had nothing else to offer that I very much need that vibe.
I think the single guy thing is really important. Look, I also think that the spaces don't really allow for single men to come in. And we tend to, like the Discords and the WhatsApp groups, they don't let in single guys often. There is a sense of entitlement that some of the single guys have, though, that bugs me. And
I think a lot of it's insecurity, don't you think, though? Guys are single in a space where sex is openly available and talked about, and they think, oh, I'm here, I must be desired. It's a bravado.
I mean, isn't that the opposite of insecurity? I think they're coming in too hot and too confident and too.
But do you think it's real confidence, or do you think does it come across as sincerely? Because to me, confidence is a quiet confidence.
Oh, right.
Like you and I've talked about this, that you think part of the success that you have, besides the fact that you're attractive, but part of the success you have is that you sit back and you're not hungry, you're not thirsty. If you have sex at a party, great. If a night goes by where you don't, that's fine too.
It is. I think that if I can give, like, my playbook is be nice to everyone. Right. Have conversations with people outside of the play space. A lot of guys don't do that. They like talk to other dudes, then the clothes come off, and next thing you know, they're next to you trying to put their dick in your mouth.
Yeah.
And they never had a conversation with you, whereas I did.
Right.
So I'm already ahead. Right. The other thing that I think that I do, and I'm gonna ask you this because I adore my wife and I treat her a certain way in front of other people. And I think people do notice that. I don't know if anyone's ever said that, but my wife has told me, hey, I don't like this person because I don't think he likes his partner.
Yes.
Oh. You probably see a lot of that.
Yeah,
too.
I've seen that for sure too. There's someone in particular I'm thinking of, and they're very attractive, and I thought I was interested in them until I saw the way that they talk to their partner, and I went, I'm dried up. So that is absolutely accurate. And it's not just your partner. Like, you treat everybody with like so much respect, and like you're genuinely interested in who they are. And I don't think a lot of these single men are coming in asking people questions about themselves.
No.
I think they're going, this is me. Let me tell you why I am so great. This isn't a conversation.
No. That happens on
You're
dates.
selling yourself.
Well, that happens on dates too.
Yeah.
It's like guys don't ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I end up asking a ton of questions. And then it's like, do you want to know anything about
Right.
Are you at all?
Right. Exactly.
Right. And then they come to a party and they expect to have sex.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
It's a sex party. It's in the title.
It's a sex
Right.
party. So then I'm going to have sex, but it's not just like think about what I compare. If we went to a nightclub, me and a bunch of guys went to a nightclub, 5 of us, we'd be lucky if one of us had sex that night. Right. If all 5 of us had sex that night, that is like, it is, you just rolled 7-8 times. Right. And it's crazy. It never happens. It's like winning the lottery. But then they go to play party, and I feel like there's this expectation that they're going to sleep with multiple women that night.
Right.
And they're not realizing that, like, if you came by yourself, didn't bring a date, and you slept with one person that night, like, that is a lot. That's a win.
Yeah.
That is a win. This is so for me, like, if I go to a play party and I sleep with one person or two, I don't care. This is all bonus for me. I'm winning. I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
It happens in couples too, which I think is an interesting dynamic. It happened in my relationship, and it's happened in other couples I've spoken to, where one or the other partner, usually it's the man, keeps score of how many people did you hook up with versus how many people did I hook up with. And if you're a person that has sex with men and women, your number is going to be higher, right? Because there's more options for you to have sex with. So there was always, at the end of the night, you had more action than I did.
Mhm.
And that can create a tremendous amount of resentment and inequity in the relationship in a way that I think is truly toxic.
Yeah.
If you're going to go into this space, you have to acknowledge there's going to be some nights that one partner is going to get more attention than another. And I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, or there's a night where your wife gets more attention than you do, or a night where you get more attention than she does. I don't know. It's hard. They're both hot. I can't. But if there's a night where someone gets a little more attention than someone else, and then the other person feels like they didn't have as great a night.
Yeah, my wife has a term for it. She's like, "Oh, you were dick dipping."
Dick dipping.
Interesting.
So does she get
Is
upset?
that like fun dip?
She doesn't get upset. She doesn't get upset about it at all. She'll notice because I like connecting with people and getting to know them, and I'll spend all night with like 3 people and just have fun, right? If my numbers are getting up there, it's because I'm spending less time with each person. And so she's like, you're sampling almost.
Oh, interesting. You had a buffet night.
Exactly. It's more like a buffet night.
Not a sit-down dinner. You had a buffet.
Okay, before you go, because I know we're running out of time.
Okay.
So I just said
some single women.
because we said we're going to talk about it, and then we went back to men. All right, single women.
Well, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
If somebody wants to play with your partner,
Mhm.
what do you expect of that woman?
Nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't expect her to reach out to you to ask if it's okay by you?
No.
You don't expect her to check in?
No. No. If they were wanting to date
Okay.
my husband, yes, because I love metas. So like I like Cammie, Cody's ex, we were like best friends.
Mm.
Like I loved that, and he's dated other women that I've really connected with. And do we have to be best friends? No, but I do. I would like to. Do I require it? Not necessarily, but I would like to have some type of relationship or check-in process with that person.
What about on the play space?
Not at all. I don't
You
care.
don't care?
No. If they come up and ask me permission, I'm like, he's his own person. I don't care.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It would almost make me feel weird if they did ask.
Layla's an outlier though, because she enjoys watching her partner fall in love with people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a cut queen too. So like
Okay.
on top of all of that. So like I don't care.
And she wants all details, and it turns her on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what you're getting at was something different. It was about communication to the female in the relationship,
Absolutely.
I think, right?
Okay,
Right,
yeah,
as a
you asked
single-
the wrong person in this.
Well, no, because as a single woman, one of the things that I embraced early on and have continued to do, and I know has been acknowledged and appreciated in the play space, is that I want to make sure the female half of the couple is comfortable at all times. So if somebody goes to kiss me for the first time, I say, is your partner okay with this?
Really?
Always. If I'm going to have a play date with somebody and the partner's not going to be there, I will text and say, thank you for lending me your husband. Are you comfortable with this? When it's over, I'll send a note and say, we had a great time. Thank you so much. And it doesn't stop. I will do that. Even if I've played with somebody 10 times, I will always make sure that the wife gets a thank you from me.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, because
no,
I
like
don't ever want to be somebody's problem. I always want to be somebody's good time.
Yeah.
And if there's any chance that engaging with me is going to create a negative energy in your relationship, I don't want that. So I need to make sure that the woman is comfortable. Now, it's not to demean the individuality of either partner, right? It's not to say you're not your own person. But if you and I are going to hang out, I want to go to your wife and say, yeah, even at a party, is this okay with you? Is it all right with you? Because I know you're down, right?
Mhm.
Right.
But I want to make sure that maybe she's not in a good headspace that night and I'm triggering for her for whatever reason.
Well, what if
don't
the
know
partner's
that.
on the other side of the party? Do you expect the person that you want to spend time with? Do you say go ask your partner?
No, I think it depends on the familiarity of the partner, right? If they're seasoned enough of a couple where they're playing on opposite sides of the party, I know that they then have carte blanche to do whatever it is they want. And if
Got
it's
it.
a couple that's been in the lifestyle space for a considerable amount of time, but if it's a couple I'm meeting for the first time, if it's a couple that I know are particularly involved where they always play together, I just always turn to the woman and say, is this okay? And it's even that simple. Like, is this okay?
Yeah.
Because I want to give her the opportunity to say, not right now,
Mhm.
or we're having, because a lot of times too, guys can be oblivious and not recognize that their woman might be having a tough night or not be feeling it. And it might not have anything to do with me, but I want to give her the opportunity to stop him. Because a lot of times guys will roll downhill real fast. So I want to give her a break. I just know, having been part of a couple, what courtesies I would have appreciated. And it's come back to me several times now from women saying, you're always very courteous. Thank you. And so that to me is validation that what I'm doing may feel like overkill for some, but feels like the right thing for me. And so I would advise other women, just to make sure that you're on the safe side, think about considering the dynamic of the relationship that you're stepping into, even just playing, to make sure that everybody involved is comfortable.
No, you've really inspired me by saying that, because I never really considered doing that. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never asked the person's partner if that was okay. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, have I like made drama? I don't know, but
Probably not.
You do
not,
it, no,
but-
but you do it in your own way. You'll say like, "Hey, can you check with your wife?" Right? You'll make sure that I checked.
In outside of a party, I do. So
Yeah.
I think when you asked me that, I was considering just parties.
Right.
If it was like a hookup outside of a
You would
party,
do that for sure.
I would, because I want to make sure that the wife even knows what he's doing. So absolutely, when parties, I'm not, but with the outside world, I do that. But maybe at parties, I do need to do it more if the wife is near.
I think that you're onto something for single people in general, or just people in the space, period, right? If you have a conversation with the other person's partner, you will go farther.
Absolutely.
Because I think that for me, if you're a single guy and you want to play with my partner, if you come have a conversation with me, I'm going to feel more comfortable with you. And it's not like I'm giving you permission or something, but I'm immediately going to be more comfortable with you. You put in some effort to build some sort of relationship with me.
Absolutely. I know guys feel that way for sure, right? Like you're sharing your partner with another guy. Wouldn't you want to have some kind of relationship?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why I think the relationships get so deep in this space outside of the play space, is because there's a real intimacy to sharing your partner with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So that then creates a level of trust
Right.
that can bleed over into the regular kind of vanilla friendship space.
Absolutely.
Okay. Last question, because I know we're over time. Before
That's
you
fine.
go,
I like it. It's fun.
and there is this narrative that I only see it online, where people think that they say stuff like, "Oh, thank you so much for filming your divorce for us," right? And there's this negative perception from the outside, people who don't know better, that all of our relationships are going to end in fire and ice, right? Your relationship that you had, where you're saying there was this
It
insecurity,
had nothing to do with the lifestyle.
would it have ended anyway?
Yeah.
If the-
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. It absolutely would have ended. I want to respect his privacy, but by not giving too many details. But the issues that we had were serious issues that had nothing to do with lifestyle.
Right.
It was life stuff. So that relationship wouldn't have succeeded anyway. I'm very grateful for that relationship in that it brought me to this. And he being a partner for me in this allowed me to be in a community that feels very much like me and has brought me to the friendships that I have. So no regrets in that regard. But yeah, that had nothing to do with it. Our relationship would have imploded regardless of the lifestyle.
Yeah.
The lifestyle brought me joy in a relationship that otherwise was challenging.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that I do call it advanced relationshiping, because you have to communicate on a level that normal couples, regular couples that aren't engaging in lifestyle activities don't necessarily have to engage in, right? They don't talk about finding somebody else attractive. They don't talk about feelings of jealousy openly. They don't talk about hesitations and insecurities. And when you're in the lifestyle space, you have to talk about this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're renegotiating boundaries and agreements, if you're talking about creating a new relationship dynamic, you have to have these conversations. I think it sets the groundwork for more successful relationships.
Absolutely.
I have seen fewer breakups in this space than I've seen outside of this space. Relationships change, they morph. We have had breakups. I'm not going to say that we haven't. Most of them have been navigated very successful, and couples have found new partners and managed to coexist in the space. There have been a couple of dumpster fires, but rare,
Right.
rare. And I think that is not the norm. I think the norm is that people are communicative, they're mature. I think that to get to this space, you have to have a level of comfort with your partner to say, this is my person and I'm going to have these adventures with my person. And that foundation is what you need to be successful.
Amen, sister.
I love it.
Amen.
Thank you for being here, Jacki.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Is there
it's
any-
always so much fun.
Is there anything you want to say to the audience, anywhere they can find you, or about the organization?
Yeah, I mean, you can slide into my DMs,
Yeah.
which I've never said before, but that sounds so cool and
It
intimate.
sounds fun.
It's just my name. It's just at Jacki Schechner. And look, I don't need to sort of talk excessively about my sexual escapades, but I'm very much an advocate for ethical non-monogamy. I just think it's a really powerful way to live your life. And I was trying to explain it to my parents. And one of the things I said is, you can be a cheater all your life, or you can do this, right? And in your cheating, you're hurting somebody, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting other people. When you're doing this, nobody's getting hurt because everything's honest and open. And the E is capitalized. It's a capital E. It's ethical. And that's the whole point of doing it this way.
I love it. You're like, most of us are non-monogamous, just some of us are ethical.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
That's 100% true.
Ooh, you came with the smoke today. Thank you, Jacki.
Thank you so much.
All right.
No, don't you want to say that's a revenant?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Stupid.
Why don't you do it?
What? No, I don't even know what to say.
All right. That's all right. I got it. All right. That's it for this episode today, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you love content like this. And until we see you next time, have fun with someone. Wait, fuck, I fucked it up. Okay. Until we see you next time, try something or try someone new.